Now, speaking of the bullpen, so far in spring games, there has been a lot of encouraging pitching performances from relievers, leaving quite a battle for the final bullpen spot on the opening day roster. Through four scoreless innings, right-handed pitcher Sean Reed-Foley has struck out 7 of 13 batters faced, with his fastball sitting at 95 to 96 and topping 97 miles an hour. Right-handed pitcher Yohan Ramirez has also been impressive, four scoreless innings, no walks, inducing a ton of ground balls, with his fastball sitting at 96 to 97 and topping 98 miles an hour. And then there's also non-roster invite right-handed pitcher Yaxel Rios, three scoreless innings on one hit and no walks, fastball sitting at 95 to 96 and topping 98 miles an hour. Other candidates include Michael Tonkin, Austin Adams, Phil Bickford, Josh Walker, Reed Garrett, and Colton Ingram. We've also got impressive campaigns from right-handed pitcher Grant Hartwig and left-handed pitcher Nate Lavender, who were both optioned to AAA Syracuse this week. The successor to this last reliever spot will be joining a very deep bullpen headlined by Edwin Diaz, Brooks Raley, Jorge Lopez, Adam Ottavino, Jake Diekman, and the rotting corpse of Drew Smith. Sorry.
Yeah, on my leaderboard, me personally, I'm feeling Sean Reed Foley or Yaxel Rios. Sean Reed Foley. He has a disgusting fastball. This thing rises like crazy. It is good velo, and his changeup has incredible vertical separation. For example, last week, if you listened, we talked about vertical approach angle, and the more separation and vertical approach angle between a fastball and a changeup, usually the higher chase percentage is going to get, because naturally all fastballs and changeups tunnel. They look relatively the same to all batters. And it's more about the velocity separation, the separation of drop. And Sean Reed Foley has a incredible separation between his fastball and changeup. And then with Yaxel Rios, it's very similar. He throws a splitter. I do think that Yaxel Rios' slider might play a bit better with his fastball. So in that case, I think Yaxel Rios would be my main pick. But these are two guys that we could probably bring up at any point. If they're both on minor league deals, I believe. Or, well, Sean Reed Foley is control. Yaxel Rios is a minor league deal. Correct me if I'm wrong. So these are two guys I would love to see in the Mets bullpen at some point. Maybe Sean Reed Foley has room to add a cutter in there to really solidify his arsenal. But these are two high upside guys that I'm really happy that we have. And I'd love to see them given a real chance in our bullpen.
The thing that I've loved about Sean Reed Foley, I mean, it obviously has just been the last appearance that he just had against the Cardinals. 9 pitches, 9 fastballs. He has so much confidence into that fastball right now because he is just gassing it by batters. I mean, that has been really impressive. Frank, what do you think?
Names that you mentioned, my actual reasoning for Sean Reed Foley is more so our previous topic about what do you do with Fujinami and do you have him in this multi-inning role. I think that's actually the perfect role for Sean Reed Foley because one of the
Yeah.
things that Keith Hernandez brought up on the broadcast is like it's a very real thing, but rain happens in April a lot in New York, and you're going to have double headers. So it's like, boom, there's where Budo makes his starts on those double headers. So if Budo is making starts for you, he can't also be the long reliever at the same exact time, especially if there's 6-man rotation. So I think a guy like Sean Reed Foley, he really plays into that like long relief role where, okay, I need 2 to 3 innings. He could do it no problem because it's what he's done in the past. I mean, we saw him do it in a Mets uniform a little bit when he first got here before he had all of his injuries and things like that. So I feel like he's someone who would translate into that role because we're saying, okay, we know like what everyone else is going to do, but who's going to be that guy that could go multi innings? Sean Reed Foley is probably that guy. I think with Yaxel Rios, despite the good spring he's had, this is a guy who's been in the big league since 2017 and is still yet to kind of find himself.
He's Puerto Rican, though.
That's good. That's good for him. I mean, I'm rooting for the guy. Trust me, man. Rios. I mean, like that's my middle name. Like I root for him, but I just think that it's been so long in the big leagues. They hasn't been able to find it yet. That I'm not going to be like, okay, he has the advantage. I'm going to choose him over some other good candidates. I just feel that like it's going to take more for me to really kind of fully trust him because it's been such a struggle. He's been to a ton of different teams that for me to see just that overall consistency of being effective is kind of, where I worry.
I do agree with you. There has not been consistency at the major league level, but I think it's very possible that last year he could have found a new stride. He had a great season in AAA with Atlanta. He had a 2.5 ERA. He had almost 11 Ks per nine. He limited the walks and he limited the home runs. And with the pitch data that we do have, his arsenal does complement each other. Each pitch complements the other. So if he's able to it all comes down to command. And this is for so many pitchers. A lot of modern philosophies around pitching is that if you have good stuff, just throw it and it'll play well. That is, I personally don't believe that is correct. And that's a thing I used to believe was correct. But there's so many pitchers whose stuff play up because of their command. Someone like Max Fried, who I personally believe is one of the most underrated pitchers in baseball, even with the amount of praise that this guy gets. I understand what you're saying, but I think there's also a good chance that he may have really found a corner here, because in 2022 in AAA, he had a 19 walk rate, and he lowered that by over 10% last year, and a pretty decent sample size. So I would love to see what we really have here, but I do understand your concern.
I'll just counter with, like you said, he had that good year in Atlanta, has was it like a couple innings with Oakland in the big leagues, gives up 7 runs. You know what I mean? So it's like, as soon as this guy gets back
37 ERA.
Exactly. And it's only 2 innings, but it's like, as soon as he gets to the big leagues, bam, he gets bombed. So that's why I'm saying that, like, maybe he's got something, but again, until I see it on the big leagues, it's just, it's a different animal. We know that. So I hope it happens, but I'm not going to bank on him being one of the guys to start it off.
It's a good problem to have.
It's
this
different than what they've had
decision.
in the past, where it's like, is anybody good enough to be on the team? Like that's what we were kind of like you said before. We were forced, like, well, Tommy Hunter has to pitch. We have nobody else. Like, that's just the way it was year after year. Like, this is a totally, finally they've gone more of this, like we say, quantity approach. Like, David Stearns just like, give me a bunch of arms who have something I like, and then kind of figure it out. And that's so far. I mean, in spring training, a lot of these guys have shown some promise, and you just feel better of, okay, someone gets sent down. We're not getting the Long Island Ducks and the bankers from 3 years ago to be in the bullpen. Like, we're getting actual guys who have been in our farm system. We have been watching, developing, and we feel that they could just kind of step in when we need them to.
I'd say that just the amount of upside that's just been on display as to where they have their worst outing, maybe they have a bad outing, like maybe one of these guys, but then right after, when they have their other appearance, they show their best stuff. Like, you see their very worst, and then you see their very best. Now, the very worst hasn't been blow up, unless you're looking at like Phil Bickford, who just sucks.
Not a Stearns guy.
Not a Stearns guy, exactly. So screw him. But when you look at it with like Yaxel Rios, like, this is one of those solid pieces that has to put it together to be a dominant type of pitcher, because he has that type of explosive stuff in the high 90s. Like, that's something you're looking at, but he has to obviously put everything together, and that's what obviously scares you. But again, under a guy like David Stearns, I think that that's like the best direction you can obviously go in with him, where it's the best situation he is in, and he obviously needs to work on it. We've seen some command issues from Yaxel Rios so far, where maybe he's leaving something too up in the zone. Fly ball gets caught on the warning track, whatever. Overall, I think that the control compared to what he used to have looks better, but as compared to the command, there's a few issues, obviously. As for Sean Reed-Foley, I think that it's a good point as to SRF in like kind of that long relief role, because we've seen him do that before. I don't think that he is going to be pitching more than 1 inning anymore. Like, I just don't see him doing that. Of course, it's like, yeah, he's coming off of Tommy John. He has that second jolt to his arm, but I would like to utilize that velocity a little bit more. And if that is the best way to do that is for him to just pitch 1 inning, I'm fine with that, mainly because throughout this organization, we have other long relief options, of course, with, Lucchese or Budo or something like that. They're obviously not as explosive as Sean Reed-Foley can be, but they have those options that we have seen at least prove a decent amount of sample at the major league level, where they can be in mop-up duty, keep us in a game, or give us long relief. I think that that's something that has to be considered. But ever since that he came back from the rehab, I think that like he, with the rise in the fastball he has, it's like the perfect situation as to this Tommy John surgery is the immediate jump to his elbow. Like that is immediately he is going to have some of the best stretches of his career if he completely applies it. And from what we saw, 2022, Steve's in mid-90s. He's coming with 96, 97 with ease now. You have a lot of relievers on one-year deals. If you see Sean Reed-Foley put up a decent sample for you, maybe he does get moved up to another role where maybe he's in the back end of the bullpen next year. There's a possibility because at this current moment, Sean Reed-Foley's stock is going up, and I'm excited to see what he can do. At this current moment, it probably will be just Drew Smith and Fujinami getting those last two spots, obviously, because Drew Smith has to stay here.
Longest tenured pitcher.
He's the longest tenured pitcher to Mets history, unfortunately.
And he'll be good in April. So, I mean, that's the good thing. Like, I'm okay with him making the team to start out because we know he's good in April. It's the rest of the months where, I mean, I don't know if there's some way, like when it's Models Day, if they could somehow lock his hotel room so that he doesn't get to the field, maybe could just kind of extend that good start a little longer, but we'll see.
Rode, didn't we had some information about Yohan Ramirez? Like he was graded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Yohan Ramirez's stuff, his stuff is great. It's more than his control. According to just statistics on pitch tunneling, Yohan Ramirez's slider's almost unplayable to get chases at the major league level. So like me personally, I haven't thought of him as in my dream bullpen. He's not in there quite yet. And that's also why I picked Yaxel Rios over Sean Reed-Foley, because his slider just has way too much separation. Induced vertical break is what it's the status called. So I think that Yaxel Rios is my pick for now. I'm not sure I trust Sean Reed-Foley or Yohan Ramirez to be able to get chases at the major league level.
Again, with that sort of rise and that sort of explosiveness with Sean Reed-Foley, you never know, of course. Like, you're going to have your expected whiff numbers up through the roof, but we'll see if he actually can get that. Yohan Ramirez, he can be an explosive arm at max effort, I think that, but the slider is, especially when I'm pretty sure he has hit two batters already with that slider.
With his fastball and slider tunnels, or is that there's too much horizontal separation. And if you look through every single season of Yohan Ramirez's career, he has been in the bottom percentiles in chase rates. And I'm not sure I see much reason that would be different through the pitch data we have from him.